looking at
22 you're going.
that book that they referenced. That book. I did a PDF, pulled out a PDF of that, and insert it.
It's one of those stuff under it.
No, you can't find that anywhere.
Very, very subjective.
Not that I really get it.
Then again, I think real confident.
Soybeans, wheat, alfalfa. That's
Now, there's some topographical limitations in Hennepin County.
There's what?
Topographical.
Yeah, topographic.
Guess what? That's not so bad.
Right.
I got all kinds of new ones.
You might just mention that we got a letter in favor of the ordinance, I'm sorry, in opposition to the ordinance. You might just say his name, enter it in his record, and that's all. We don't have to
Okay.
read it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only one we got.
Okay. Hey, it's 6:30. We're going to call this meeting to order for the Huntington County Plan Commission. First item is a roll call.
Todd Landrum, Jim Sproul,
Here.
Terry Miller,
Here.
Ed Ferris,
Here.
Steve Park,
Here.
Jerry Meehan,
Present.
Bob Boland,
Here.
Don Freiberger,
Here.
Terry Stockton.
Present.
Okay, we have consideration of minutes from March the 26th, 2025. Everybody have a chance to look at those minutes.
Make a motion we approve as presented. I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, is there a conflict of interest for any of the docket items for Huntington County Plan Commission? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead then to new business. And we have a docket PC 25-4, application filed by Huntington County Wide Development of Community Development requesting to amend to modify the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 2, Section 2.3J, Solar Energy System Standards by replacing and terminating the solar moratorium of Huntington County, Indiana. Okay, who is here to speak on behalf of this? Okay. Is there somebody from the attorney's office that could speak? Is what we want to know. Is somebody going to speak for the attorney's office to begin with for that's representing this new business?
You want to speak to the presented document? Okay. Good evening, everyone. J.B. Gray with Ice Miller here on behalf of the county commissioners. As it was just mentioned before you is a proposed text amendment to the UDO regarding solar energy systems. In working with the commissioners from last year when the moratorium was put in place, we have drafted a solar ordinance moving forward regarding solar energy standards for commercial solar projects. I believe you all have seen the proposed ordinance prior to this. I'm happy to answer any questions on those regarding that ordinance or anything else you may have. But tonight you all will hear testimony and then you all will decide to give, just like last year happened with the moratorium, you will either give a favorable recommendation, no recommendation, or a unfavorable recommendation. And if you get, regarding those three, it goes back to the county commissioners regardless of what you give. And then they act on it, and then depending on how the county commissioners act, it will either go into effect just like any other ordinance that the county commissioners pass, or if it is amended, it could come back to you all for another public hearing.
So it can be amended.
It can be. If you all amend it, then it will go back to the county commissioners. The county commissioners can then approve the amendment that you all suggested, or if they reject it, and then that allows them to amend it to where they want it, language, and it comes back to you all, and then you all have 45 days to act on that. You'll have to hold another public hearing on it, and then you either approve or disapprove the county commissioners' amendments. If you approve, it will go into effect. If you disapprove, it will go back to the county commissioners, where then they will be able to vote at their next meeting to approve the version of amendments that they sent you.
Did I hear that right? We can recommend amendments to go back,
Yes,
and if we approve it as is and it goes to the different areas, they can recommend amendments and it comes back to us, or does it have to go?
sure. So are you speaking regarding to the towns, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the plan commission as a whole is the one that, yeah, so yes. So then it goes back to the county, and they can either accept or reject your amendment, and if they reject and amend it to where, how they prefer it to be, then it comes back to you all, and then you all either approve it or disapprove it. But if you disapprove it, then it goes back to the county commissioners, and they can vote to have the proposed text ordinance be the version that they send to you all with their amendments.
Whether we.
Yeah.
So if we can ask you a specific question.
Mhm, on the ordinance.
For how it would be addressed and how it is addressed or isn't.
Okay, I'll start. Yeah, I got a few that I'd like to discuss amongst us and all that if we could. I'm looking at 1,000-foot setback to wells. I assume that is referring to wells that are on participating property, because I'm already 1,000 feet from everything on a non-participating. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the intention, correct.
Okay, so, that's an interesting, we do a lot of things in agriculture, right? And, 1,000 feet from well is a lot for, you know what I mean? And I think, in my opinion, that one of the things that we could look at is maybe doing earthen diking or something around these things to keep the surface water from going somewhere, as opposed to putting in an ordinance for 1,000 feet. We don't even go 1,000 feet from some of the industrial manufacturing stuff we've got here. You know what I mean? I'm just,
Yeah.
that seems excessive to me. That, I don't care, you gotta have 1,000-foot setback, that's fine with me. But the other thing I'm concerned about is surface water. There's not a mention here of river, open ditch, standpipes, ponds, nothing. There's no setback to surface water. But yet we have 1,000-foot setback to a well, where a homeowner can spray chemicals and put fertilizer, on his yard. And that just seems like that's one of those things that, as you read it and you look at it, seems to me to not fit the, because you're 1,000 feet from anybody that's not participating. So they're safe, right? I assume that's why it's like that. And so, go ahead, Steve.
Well, two things to piggyback on yours, that with the setback, you're inferring, or it's inferred in here, that you can build over the floodplain with the solar panels. That's not good. You can't do that. And then and then also the setback question relating to Jim's, what is the setback between participating owners? I mean, I didn't see anything there.
Okay.
I mean, is there a setback from,
There is not, but that can certainly be
there should be.
addressed if that's the will of the commission. And
Then the other thing that I want to make sure we get clarification on is, the way I read this, any soil type in Huntington County that is suitable for agricultural farm production is unsuitable for any kind of solar structure.
yeah, so you have
That's
to,
the entire county. there isn't any soil type in Huntington County that you can't farm. Is that the intention of that?
Yes, and as mentioned in the ordinance, there's soil requirements, soil test requirements too, to be done.
Right, but there aren't any, Ed helped me here, but there aren't any soil types available in Huntington County that are not prime farmland.
Yeah, they could be prime farmland based, there's no definition of prime farmland in that book that's mentioned, so.
But, you know, all soil types in Huntington County would be considered suitable for crop production. So if that's what you want it to read, that, to me, that's just end of story. We can, you know what I mean, we can not really talk about a whole lot more. You don't need the 1,000-foot setback.
Yeah.
And do you want all this stuff to apply to individual homeowners who want to put up, you know, 10, 15 solar panels to, you know, I mean, we've got a 1,000-foot setback from a well, so. What's the intention there?
So the commissioners may, at their discretion down the road, propose an ordinance regarding, you know, solar for personal use on homes, and then also for, Rob gave an example of, let's say, basically, for example, let's say a huge pig farmer wants to put solar in their buildings
Right.
and stuff. So it's not, so they can, down the road because it's not wanting to prohibit that, this is not wanting to prohibit that, per
Okay.
se. So,
Okay.
but down the road, the commissioners may decide.
That'll have to be
ordinance.
changed and would
Yeah,
be made.
yeah, there'd
Okay.
still be regulations and things to be met for those, but yes.
I think, though, in the definitions, doesn't it already allow this?
It allows based off wattage,
What am I
yes.
missing? Okay, okay,
It's just not, so you're selling it back.
But,
right.
but does the 1,000-foot well setback apply to that too?
I don't think so.
No.
That's not the intent.
No.
So you
None of
can
this
use
would
it-
apply.
You can use it on your farm and do what you want
I can do whatever I want.
on your farm, as long as your intentions are to sell it back to somebody. You use the electricity to generate that in your own ground, period.
Right, Terry, but don't I have to set that up to where I start, if I generate more electricity than I can use, the electric company has to buy it?
So.
Just like if I got my own personal wind turbine.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
look in ground-mounted system, the very last sentence. Same thing for roof-mounted system. I think that's answering,
Yeah, so there's, on the definitions, you will see throughout the definitions where
Oh, and definitely.
at the end of a handful of the definitions, there's a sentence that says the provisions in section 2.3J dealing with, this is regarding roof mount systems, dealing with SCSs do not apply to, you know, roof mount systems if used for private use and
Okay.
electricity generated is not sold to third parties except for net metering.
Okay,
But somebody would have to go or come and apply to get an RE rezone to do that.
no,
Not if it's for
No.
private use.
it's not regulated. None of
So
this
you could
applies.
put solar, yeah, on your roof without coming in to get a development plan approval if it's for private use and you don't, and
So that would stay how it was before. Residential.
Correct.
Personal use.
I mean, before, yes, it was limited by kilowatts. Now it's not, it's just limited by the fact whether you're using it for personal use or if it was gonna be for a commercial purpose.
okay, okay. Didn't catch that.
One of my big go, no-go issues, and that was coming from the previous ones that are already here. And I was shocked at the fact that there was a resident or a property owner that was not participating that is 100% surrounded. And I indicated to everybody that there has to be a provision somehow to prevent that from occurring. Where's that, and how do you do that in this ordinance, or how is it in the ordinance?
so if I understand correctly, so you're saying like, how does a non-participating property not be surrounded by, is what you're saying? Well,
I'm personally okay being surrounded on all three sides of my home and across the street, so you can make it 4 as long as those are 1,000-foot setbacks. me personally, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that based off 1,000-foot setback. That's plenty ample distance to make sure that you've got plenty of neighborly respect, I guess you could say, for lack of a better
I
word.
don't know that I agree with that, and that if part of that is access to your property, and if you're driving through 2 miles of solar panels to get to your house that's surrounded, even 1,000 all the way around, to me, that's not acceptable.
So if a community, let's just say Roanoke or Markle or Warren or Andrews wanted to put in their own solar field to help generate and offset the cost of their operational expenses, is that gonna fall under this? Because they're not really selling it back, it's not a commercial system, it's more of a private system for that community. Will that follow under the same direction as a residential?
If it's in the county, yes.
Okay.
I mean, you're saying if the town, so if the town does it and it's not in, if some of it does not, if some of it is out of the town jurisdiction, like some of it touches, county, that's in the county, then it'd have to come here for approval,
Okay.
for, if it's commercial.
But would you consider-
But if it's residential, then, and for private use, then no.
If it was to utilize, like, for the residents or for just to count the community itself, to run the energy to power the parks and power the community buildings and whatever, is that gonna fall under this, or is that gonna be falling under the residential guideline? Where they can do that without any issues from the plan commission?
That would,
What was the scenario? Did you say if the town,
Like Andrews, if Andrews wanted to put up its own system to help offset their operating
I
costs.
take it if it's the town of Andrews' private property that they own, I wouldn't see why they couldn't
Okay,
provide their own power for parks or whatever have you. They're not selling it to anyone for
right,
commercial purposes.
that's, that was my question, would it fall under the residential guideline?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not residential, no, but it's private use.
Okay.
In regards to your 1,000-foot setback from wells. So I take it that we are assuming that solar is polluting to possible groundwater. But on residential properties, you're saying that is not intact, that you don't have to stay back 1,000 foot
correct.
from?
If it's,
So we're not worried about residential wells and their groundwater, only? Okay.
so as mentioned earlier, yes, regarding residential, so, yeah, the setbacks do not apply to residential, and, the commissioners, may down the road come and propose a text amendment to address, home usage regarding setback, regarding water pollution.
You see where I'm coming from,
Mhm,
right? If we
yes.
think if we think it's contaminating groundwater, why wouldn't it be the same for residents?
The point behind that is, though, you've got a non-participating party that could be influenced by the surroundings, and that's why they're being protected. If you choose as a resident to put that on your own property, you're taking that responsibility on yourself already, so it's kind of a moot point.
We should be protecting everybody.
Yeah, we're supposed to be concerned with the safe and health of every resident, not just non-participating.
About residential rights. my thought.
What was 1,000
That's-
foot for the well, was that the property owner, or was that the other properties in the area? 'Cause I thought.
This is from the property line of the property owner.
Your wells should be within your property line, and this is from the property line, so I'm not quite understanding why the wellhead wording is in there.
So the wellhead language was put in there based on discussions that we had with the county commissioners. So that's why that was added in there for the setback requirements.
That's on participating properties, that's.
On participating property, yeah, from the property
And I
line.
would say that would be from any well regardless of whether it's participating or not participating. Am I understanding that correctly? It's wherever there's a well, any
That's what it says.
solar panel has to be 1,000 feet from that or component.
Hang on.
Oh, so that's whether it's the solar owners or.
It doesn't say one or the other. I mean, it just says 1,000 feet.
Nearest well head.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Nearest
all.
wellhead, yes. Apologies, yes, yes, and then it's a setback for, I think somebody asked me for non-participating, has to be 1,000 feet from a non-participating property line.
I would like to compliment the safety procedure. You know, I'm a volunteer fireman, I appreciate that we're gonna, it's kinda like what we did with the windmills. We're gonna train anybody that may have to deal with this, you know, in an emergency situation. I think that's very, very important to stay in there, so.
But a little,
I have a question for you on your erosion control plan. There's no mention at all about retention pond or containment pond or any lining in that containment pond for contaminants. And that would fall in line with that 1,000-foot setback from the well.
Right.
yeah, that's a lot.
Earth and dike.
There's a lot of hard surface.
So, that was like, because a couple of you have brought up issues regarding that instance, and it's not in here. So, in the ordinance, it does state that when the Plan Commission does review development plans, that you all may impose conditions on the approval of a development plan.
May, if you need to say may.
May, yeah, may, so it'd be your, yeah, it's not not a shall, it'd be the Plan Commission's decision to impose, conditions on approval. So if there's conditions that, you all see fit that need to be added on for a development plan approval for an applicant to meet, then you all may impose those.
So they can implement protections for those surface waters that I talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do whatever they want at their discretion to protect that.
Plan Commission.
The development plan.
Oh, so that
Because there's nothing in here about setting back from, like I said, rivers, open ditches, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then you said in plan development, they could address detention and all that. Well, and they also, since we don't have anything in here that protects them, I mean, technically, the way this reads, I can have an old drainage standpipe come up in the middle of that field where you're gonna put solar panels and there's nothing. So, I think you got that 1,000-foot setback to existing wells and you have like no protection for any surface water and runoff. And I think that's a oversight.
Definitely need to have a containment with a line containment, holes that are contained.
Stormwater calculations are required for development plan, erosion control plan.
My second big issue from my first one, that was not addressed or addressed in a negative way, is the deforestation. And you're allowing them to come in and pretty much clear cut everything out. And with the soil issue question, that makes that more vulnerable because it's not farmland, so they can clear cut it and they have to have approval, they say why. That's easy for them to say. And the one group that's here, I was impressed that they did not touch a tree. And, but you're saying it's okay for them to cut them down.
Where is that in here?
Oh. I was jumping. Yes, and there's not the page number. Under visual buffer,
Okay.
ground cover and buffer areas, 7, all trees to be removed to accommodate the installation of solar energy system shall be accompanied by a plan demonstrating the need to remove. So basically you're saying it's wide open.
You also said something about flood ground, it's in here, you can't, 17, 317A. 3 feet above the base flood elevation.
Yeah, that's saying that you can put them in the floodplain then.
Yeah.
No part of a solar panel, rack, inverter, or other equipment associated with an SE system shall be less than 3 feet above.
Mine says over.
It's,
Can you change that?
Do you have the most revised that you were emailed with some clarifications? That might be the discrepancy there.
so you're saying they can put them in the floodplain, but they just
Yes.
have to be
No,
above.
and then you can restrict your flow of the.
Right, as long as you don't restrict the flow of water,
Makes
you know, it
kinda
has to be
hard
3 feet
access.
above base flood elevation, yes.
Gotcha.
So the rack can't be, it has to be 3 feet above. So how do you put a rack in base,
And
in
under
the ground below the base elevation? How do you put a rack in there?
What?
It says no part of a solar panel, rack, inverter, or other equipment. So how would you put a rack if the ground level is below the base flood elevation? How can you put a rack in that ground?
Well, you wouldn't be able to if it was below.
That's what I'm saying. He's saying you can put one in anywhere. That seems like it's saying you're not allowed to.
I'm not sure we're on the same.
17.
I mean, it would be just simpler just that you can't be encroaching into a floodplain.
Yeah, yes, I
I
agree.
mean, otherwise they're gonna find a way.
They're not gonna put, they wouldn't wanna put that on the floodplain
Well,
anyway.
you wouldn't want to, but I mean, you wouldn't put it past somebody.
What if you put a concrete to bring the rack up above 3 feet? I mean,
The expense would prohibit,
But you can't put the concrete in the, you can't put the concrete in the floodplain.
yeah.
why can't you?
What's that?
Why couldn't you?
Because you're not allowed to construct in it.
I mean, you can under certain conditions. I mean, if we really want to go into that, we can go into that.
Well,
You can in certain conditions.
So there's just, it's just.
I mean, it's like a footer on a house, but then your lowest floor has to be 3 feet above base
Good
flood.
access it.
Well, I'm just saying, do we want to allow that or not?
Yeah.
I don't see why not. As long as water can flow, I mean, yeah.
I thought you'd want to do a river anyway.
Yeah.
I guess you can't really build anything within, is it 50 or 100 feet of a river?
I mean, that's the easiest way to say it, just say you stay out in the floodplain and so far back from a river or
Based
something
on
like that.
state regulations, I thought there was something in there.
Steve, you have more questions?
If somebody else does, I mean.
Yeah, Steve's looking here for more questions. He's getting his notes together. Does anybody else on the Plan Commission have any questions about the ordinance to ask the attorney?
So with the soils, I guess if you go to the soils, that would prohibit a wetland encroachment too then. Being able to put in the wetland, I guess I was asking you from the soil standpoint.
Why, like, again, I don't know of any soil type in Huntington County that can't be declared farmable.
Right.
No, I'm saying,
So-
a
Right,
wetland,
Well, it's a soil type that's probably listed as
yeah.
It could
farmable.
be, it could be called prime farmland and not eligible for solar, basically what, this way it's written.
Right.
Yeah. If it's producing crops,
If
it could be
it's not
considered.
the way this is written, anything that's the wrong soil, or any soil type that can be farmed, is the way I read it,
Right.
and that's all of Huntington County. I don't know of any soil type in Huntington County that wouldn't be considered available for agricultural production.
But it goes by the USDA standards in the book. It goes by that, and to give a perfect example is Whitley County, their ordinance currently has a ban on solar. However, in their ordinance, they've allowed it on basically brownfield. And so the old stone quarry, they are putting it in there because that's considered a brownfield.
Oh,
So-
well, I will give you that Erie Stone is not farmable farm ground. I mean,
Well,
I can also build them right to Lake Claire because there's no setback from open water.
I guess what continues to confuse me is, looking at this ordinance, there's a couple things right there that just say solar can't be put on farm ground. And so there's a lot of other questions and concerns of the ordinance, whether it was written, so forth and so on. I mean, we went through an entire long process with mediators and so forth. So my question, I guess, is, if we just wanted a ban, why didn't we just write a ban instead of an ordinance that is kind of camouflaged as a ban,
Prohibitive.
And
Is
just
the word I was
prohibit.
looking for.
And so, I think everybody knows my stance, but I mean, that's my confusion, is why didn't we just say, hey, let's prohibit this instead of writing this ordinance that,
Well, I think essentially what's on the books now is that way
Well,
because
that
there's no end date.
moratorium,
There's
yeah.
no end date in the.
Well,
books.
we need to clarify that residential properties and commercial properties and individuals could do that. I understand that we needed to clear that up, but, it's just like, we can debate whether solar panels will contaminate groundwater and so forth. I mean, but we allow farmers to spray grounds and things that are done, spread manure and whatever, and we're not doing 1,000-foot setbacks. And so, instead of all that, why didn't we just write a prohibit solar on farm ground and move on? I mean, we've got a lot of time and money and effort into this. So
yeah, I think and this is me just putting an idea out there. But if you just did a set ban, what happens if the state comes back and says, you as a county, you're not allowed to have a ban, so we're wiping it off, right?
the state can always override us, Bobby. I mean.
Well, I know, but it would be a long duration of a process to go and override every county in the state. So effectively, they could come back and say, we're gonna go ahead and change all setbacks across the state. And that bill was proposed, right? You know that?
Pretty much.
That bill was proposed. And so that bill was proposed to remove our home rule. And so if they do come back and say, we're taking away your 1,000-foot setbacks, it is now 100 feet, we have extra security in there. That's it. That's some of the logic. So
That's what was done.
Okay.
we can say that it's, well, if you want to prohibit it, prohibit it. But what if we just say, there is no ordinance on solar, it's a one-page document, it says can't do it in Huntington County. But what if the state comes back and says any county that says you just can't do it? We're not saying you can't do it. We've made it very restrictive.
Anything we do, though, can be changed. It can be changed 2 months later. I mean, even this ordinance that we're writing, can be changed. And the state could say, we're gonna take over all energy production next year. And it would completely kibosh anything you're doing. I understand what you're saying, Bob. I'm not trying to make, I'm not trying to make light of it at all,
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
and it's a good point, okay?
It would have been a lot easier for us just to do that, okay? But we tried to put more safeguards in place to protect everybody. They did that in Michigan, if you know, but the legislation just gave the right back to the own
I
small.
mean, it's just a legitimate question I have, this is why not,
Yep.
I mean, we went through a whole mediator session, and I don't know what even become of that, or whether that was embedded in this ordinance or not. Nobody's really said, okay? And so I just wonder why we've wasted so much resources, taxpayer dollars and so forth, and not just do that. And again, I'm not trying to cause any rift, just something I
No, you
see.
throw that out there, Terry, and you say that, but, I talked with the representative from the Pro Solar, and I said, how many feet are you thinking? I don't know, how many are you thinking? That was our last meeting that we had. So, your only output is only as good as your input, okay? So, there you go.
Okay, what other questions do we have for the attorney? Anybody else in the plan commission have questions? Steve, did you?
I got the highlights.
Okay, I know you got a few notes there, so. Okay, very good questions. Is there anything else? Anybody wants, so we okay then to move on to public comment? Is that where we're headed?
We got one more question.
Okay, one more question, good.
Is there an appeal process? Or is it?
From what, the plan commission? Like, if
So-
you guys deny a development?
Not from us, for anybody that wants, if this goes through, is there, if somebody files and goes through the application and gets denied, is there an appeals process for that?
Uh,
No.
Yes, there is, because it goes back to the plan commission.
Okay.
Do you mean if someone applied to
Yeah.
have a solar farm and the plan commission denied it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as any regulations denied it goes, you can file with the court for an appeal.
So
We had something like that with that gun range thing.
Yeah.
well, so what I guess what I see is the number 12, agricultural protection. Use of private farm ground is not permitted, right? Basis for denial of rezoning and for development plan approval. So what I'm saying is if somebody brings that and gets denied because of that,
They could appeal in court.
in court, not,
No, yeah, we go to the,
that would be the avenue.
that would be the avenue, correct?
Okay.
Yep.
Just curious. I didn't know what kind of can that would open up with the city, county.
Any decision the plan commission makes is appealable.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions before we open this up for, oh, yeah, go
I
ahead.
have one other internal question, is George was involved with the committees. Is he a public or is he part of the speaker now?
Part of the public.
Public?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good question, Steve. Any other questions before we open this up for public comment? Okay, so I think we're ready. Kim, we have a process in place, right,
Okay.
for what we're doing with
Yep.
the
I'm
public
gonna read
comment?
your name and you can come up and, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yes.
So, could you come up, Andrea?
Yeah.
Yeah, just announce, make sure the plan commission all knows your role, and I just want to make sure everybody's clear, since this is your first meeting, I think, as
Sure.
plan commission
Yeah.
attorney, so.
So I'm Andy Boxberger. I am the attorney for the county and therefore also the attorney for the Plan Commission. They asked me to come here today just to kind of help with the procedural process. So we're about to have a public hearing. Anybody in the public will have the opportunity to speak. Every person will be limited to 3 minutes. You cannot cede your time to another speaker, so each individual person has 3 minutes and that's it. There'll be no decision made. To be clear, there'll be no decision of adopting this tonight by this board. This board has a role to play. You are either going to recommend it be passed, recommend it not be passed, or you can vote to have no recommendation. So that will be the only decision that you need to make here tonight after you have the hearing, and then you'll go back into session and make your decision. But again, 3 minutes. Everybody has the opportunity to speak. Please be civil. And please follow the 3-minute rule because there's a lot of people here and we want to get through everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So Kim, you got the list, and you got the people by number, is that correct?
Yes, I mean, there's only 5.
There's 5 people that are signed up to
Yep.
speak, so
All
first
right.
person.
We got George.
And if you would, please state your name and your address before you speak into the microphone so everybody knows.
My name is George Boknifsky, 2616 East 950 North Roanoke. I'm disappointed I'm only going to get 3 minutes. I spent 6 months on the committee in the mediation, and I get 3 minutes to talk about this. I feel it's really unfair. Hopefully you received this from Kim.
Yes.
It was emailed, okay. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to go through the highlights. And I understand Ice Miller was trying to create their document in a quick manner of time, and there's a lot of things that were overlooked. I probably had about 30 items, but I'm going to keep it to 9. So if I can go through the 9 items, if I run out of time, I would really beg for an extension. In the new ordinance, section 2.1 B19A, it talks about battery energy storage systems. It does not mention that that needs to be rezoned. In the present zoning, they are listed as M2 and M3 because of the hazard potential. That needs to be in there, that it cannot be part of the overlay. Section 6.3, it talks about the NEC, which is the National Electrical Code, and that's good for wiring and for the stuff that's inside buildings. But for utility companies, the National Electrical Safety Code, NESC, should be mentioned in there because it deals with inverters, it deals with what you call it, overproduction of electricity and what you do with it. So it's not, that stuff is not dealt with in the National Electrical Code. Section 14 talks about compliance with the building and electrical codes. Again, adding NESC as a compliance requirement, as well as IEE 512 and IEE 519. This will cover utility safety. That's not addressed in the NEC, and the code sets limits on harmonic distortion. And that's been a problem in any kind of solar system, as well as any other utility. One of my companies that I used to own, we did engineering for cell towers, and we had to follow that, so we were not screwing up with currents and things, and being able to ground those towers.
15 seconds, George.
I'm not going, there's no sense in me going on. No, I will. It talks about the floodplains. It mentions that it is 4 feet or 3 feet, whatever you said, above the floodplain. That implies that you can build it in the
Time's up,
floodplain.
George, I'm sorry.
You want to?
I don't know why you're looking at me, this is Ed's meeting, so.
With the limited number
3
of,
minutes is 3 minutes.
with the limited number of speakers, might we extend it to all speakers?
I'm in favor of that.
Say that again.
With the limited number of speakers we have scheduled, might we extend the time to all the speakers, not just George?
That's, what does the commission think about this? So
You can make a motion to that effect if you want.
I so move.
Did you want to state the time?
Put a limit.
7 minutes?
Motion's been made for 7 minutes to extend for the speakers for the public. Is there a second to that
I
motion?
second it.
Motion's been seconded. Wait a minute,
Well, this
who's?
is the county, so we.
County, we're in the county. Somebody from the county has to,
I'll second.
Steve will second that motion.
And we're doing 7 minutes, right? 7 additional or 7 total?
7 total.
7 total, 4 more minutes, okay.
Is there, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
That's for a roll call.
Okay, we'll ask for a roll call.
Jim Sproul,
Yes.
Terry Miller,
Yes.
Ed Ferris,
Yes.
Steve Park,
Yes.
Jerry Meehan,
No.
Bob Boland,
No.
Don Freiberger,
Yes.
Terry Stoffel.
Yes.
What's the count?
We've got enough. We've got our count. We've only had, I think, 2 no's, so
Okay.
they can proceed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that very much. The way that the section 17A, it implies that you can put these in the floodplain. And the concern that and the state of Indiana, the Flood Control Act does allow for variances to be built in floodplains other than occupied buildings. But you cannot block the flow of the water. And if you're putting posts in at 10 feet on center, you're trying to figure out how, they're gonna have posts, they're gonna try and raise this up, but those posts are going to be blocking the flow. And if you get a dam, now you're gonna change the whole flood elevation. So I think my recommendation, one more thing, Mr. James, as far as safety, if there is a flood and you gotta get safety equipment into that, you're gonna be driving through water to try and put out a fire or adjust something.
I'm gonna assume that, we probably don't put out a fire till the electrical guys get there from the solar farm anyway.
Well,
That's
what
my
I'm
opinion.
saying
I
is,
don't think we're probably gonna be driving
it's a hazard.
Yeah, we ain't gonna be driving in
We're
water.
not gonna, or anybody, so, I mean, you can take.
Let's hold off on comment until
Okay.
George is done, if that's
So
possible.
anyway, my recommendation is, and you saw, I sent pictures of what it looks like, is just to completely not allow it within floodplains. Waste management, section 28A, it just uses the term timely manner for industrial standards. I've been in the construction business for 45 years. I've never known what an industrial standard is for cleanup. So I would recommend that you set a time frame of 1 to 3 months, depending on weather conditions. It's more difficult to clean it up in the wintertime than the summer. Section 30B, under electrical wires, talks about crossings where we're dealing with ditches, be marked by a warning signage for visibility. I believe that the Drainage Board is placing more restrictive requirements of just a warning signage, but additionally, I think you have the opportunity here to add additional underground trace wires and placing the electrical wire 5 feet below grade, as well as encasing it in concrete. Section 35, liability insurance, it talks about adding Huntington County as an additional insured. Agree with that. Might consider adding the property owner as additional insured as well. Section 36A, notification of public hearings stating a quarter-mile radius. I think in light of the reactions that we have and trying to keep everything transparent in development, I'm asking that something up to a mile be considered.
Down to 1
for
minute,
that.
George.
Okay, I'm down to my last item. Decommissioning, 37C3, construction features and modifications. This is to be removed. It does not talk about underground wiring. It implies that you can leave the underground wiring in after you decommission it. I think that language needs to be further expanded to address that as well. So you guys should have copies of this. Thank you for considering it. And if you had more time, I have 30 other items, but that's all the time I have.
Thank you, George, very much. Okay, no applause, no applause. We're going to keep moving forward. So Kim, go ahead.
Okay, got Charles Chapman.
Thank you. I had to dig out my second sheet, George.
So state your name and your address, please, Charles.
My name is Charles Chapman. I live at 38 Stone Ridge here in Huntington, Indiana. I'm here to speak in support of property rights and economic development. Sadly, it appears the proposal being presented today to the Plan Commission is a solar ban disguised as an ordinance. Before I begin my remarks, I would like to share a story. It's a story that troubles me. It's about lifelong friends in Huntington County who haven't spoken to each other for more than a year. We're better than this. It's very upsetting to me to see this sort of contention in our county. There are good people, friends and neighbors, relatives, who may have different views and understanding about solar. And it's sad we've come to this point. I blame the internet, social media for a lot of it. Pick any topic. You can easily ignore what you don't like and find approval to your ideas and thoughts. Facebook does not promote understanding. Far too many conversations thrive on good versus bad. Everything is black and white. In an online world of win at all costs while stomping the other guy into the ground, we've lost the opportunity for discussion, informed decision-making. Good governance exists in the gray areas of compromise and understanding. My primary concern is property rights. They are fundamental to freedom and prosperity. Ensuring that people can control and benefit from their property encourages investment and supports overall economic health of our community. Moreover, we must strive for a balanced approach that respects these rights while promoting the common good through a thoughtful compromise and effective governance. I've read both proposals being put forward to the committee. I don't understand why, after a year of discussion and money spent, the ordinance you see today appears to be 99% anti-solar. It's designed to frustrate solar development in numerous ways. For example, the ordinance's setback requirements greatly exceeds setbacks for intensive livestock operations, waste storage facilities, and salvage yards for solar. This ordinance is not balanced, it's not respectful to property owners, and is anti-economic development. Unlike the old days when the commissioners would respectfully listen to all sides of an issue in their chambers, today's social media has had a way to influence and emotionally charge an issue, and that's very unfortunate. Nothing factual that I've found says that everybody's against solar. That's not true. A lot of people I talk to don't understand the controversy, and the first thing they go to is property rights. So I'm all for what the Republican platform was in 2024 when they talked about an all-the-above kind of approach. Now, I know the president was leaning on fossil fuels, maybe nuclear, but solar, why not? If somebody wants to lease their land, if a farmer wants to make the decision to harvest energy instead of corn or soybeans, why shouldn't he have the freedom to do that? I know you have to decide about protecting adjacent property owners, soil, land, that's all good. But I don't see that in this ordinance. This is a bad ordinance, and I urge the Plan Commission to reject this ban and ask for a reasonable and balanced approach to utility development. This is a utility that we're looking at. Everyone wants to say it's solar, solar, solar. It's a public utility. They're going to generate energy. I&M is building solar fields northeast Indiana, everywhere. This is a public utility, and I hope that we can develop public utilities safely, rationally, and with compromise. I have time left.
2 minutes and 42 seconds.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, who's next?
Michael Thompson.
Okay, please state your name and your address.
Good evening, folks. My name is Mike Thompson. I live at 934 Cherry Street here in the city of Huntington. I just want to address something quick. Huntington County is a 75-80% Republican county, typical rural Indiana Hoosier County. Charlie kind of just told a half-truth. The first statement of the Republican platform, the National Republican Platform, says that the Republican platform shall terminate the socialist Green New Deal, that is solar and wind, this renewable battle that we're fighting. So I appreciate what he says, but right before that, if you read the whole statement, it says no solar, no wind. And then our president also said that he doesn't want to see a single wind turbine built or a single solar farm built. No one wants to see it, blah, blah, blah. And with these renewables being only viable through us, the taxpayer, and having an administration that stands against it, it seems like it could all come crumbling down pretty fast. But I'll go quick because I don't want to ask for 15 minutes. I'll stick to 7. So yeah, I want to start by saying thank you to the Plan Commission members for giving the voters and the neighbors an opportunity to speak. Not one of us here is smarter than all of us put together, so I appreciate everybody putting their heads together and staying level. I know you've all spent a tremendous amount of time reviewing and assessing solar and this new proposal. and we all appreciate that. I'd also like to thank our 3 Huntington County Commissioners for spending so much time on this and for shouldering the burden of this issue that is polarizing many of us, and it continues to do that across the state. Over the last year, I've learned a lot about our electrical grid, energy demands, and supply options, and I've also learned a lot about the international companies like EDF dipping into the pockets of we, the taxpayers. The loss of prime farmland. I sell seed, and I manage dealers that sell seed across about a dozen Indiana counties. I work with farmers across northeast, north central Indiana, and this battle is happening everywhere. There are tens, if not hundreds of thousands across north central Indiana that could be gone forever. Pulaski County has 40,000 acres alone leased to solar. It's incredible. It's horrible. It's a tragedy. While this proposal is not one that I would write, as I firmly support a total ban on any industrial solar on farmland, I do believe that the process set forward by the commissioners has given both sides due consideration and a voice in shaping what best benefits Huntington County. I believe this proposed ordinance works to protect the property rights of every citizen in the county and to avoid further contention amongst our beloved community. I support and humbly ask that the entire Planning Commission also supports the proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, who's next?
Jody Schenkel.
Jody, thank you.
I didn't think my writing was that bad. I am Jody Schenkel Davenport. I live at 8365 West Maple Grove Road in Dallas Township. However, I am a property owner that goes back 4 generations, beginning with my great-grandfather, I.E. Weaver, and Ira Weaver, who planted the first popcorn in the county on my property. I want to mention, we're always talking about property rights, but nobody has talked about the property rights of those who don't want to do this. We have property rights. I have a right to earn an income off of my land. My land is going to abut some solar farms. Granted, if this goes through, it's going to be 1,000 feet back. That could help. But if a solar ordinance that doesn't have a 1,000-foot setback and that is closer to my property, it's not going to protect me and my income. Last year, what was the weather last fall when we harvested? Dry. Dry, 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 dry. We know for a fact that these solar farms, New Haven, Kokomo, other places, catch fire. What's going to happen to my property that would abut? What's going to happen to my crops that would abut a solar farm? That electrical fire is just going to spread like crazy. It's going to wipe out my income. And you know what? I've talked to my crop insurance representative. There is nothing that will replace my income. I have a right to have an income off of my property. There's nothing. The ordinance before you does ask that the landowners who want this and the county have some kind of protections that would protect me should my farms, my crops be wiped out. That's the only way that I am going to have, without taking anybody to court, that's the only way that I'm going to have protection, my crops. I'm retired. I need that income. And I also will mention that I was on the ordinance committee, and the ordinance before you is not the ordinance in entirety that we created. The questions that came from over here are what we created, addressed all of that. But somewhere between what we presented and it went back to the commissioners and then it went to Indianapolis and it came back, those provisions that you were worried about got dropped somehow. I mean, I spent hours and hours with George, at George's house, trying to iron out all these details. Now, if the property owners who sign up for solar have that right to do what they want on their land, I need to be protected too. So, the old ordinance, you know, if this gets shoved to the wayside, the old ordinance isn't going to protect me. It wouldn't protect the county, or it wouldn't protect the landowner who has solar, because I'm going to sue them. I'm going to sue them for the loss of my income. So, protections are there for a purpose. The insurance and the bonds and the money that is mentioned is there for a purpose, and this is just one example. Also, my ancestors have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars putting in field tiles to better the soil and the production on my farms. Without a doubt, we don't know where all those are. Half of them are clay tiles. They're going to start pounding those posts into the ground. They're going to break tiles. They came to my house and said, do you want to sign up your farmland? And I said, no. And they said, why? And I said, you give me a guarantee that my land will not flood and that the tiles that you break are going to be replaced. Because they're going to be broken, right? And the guy looks at me and he said, well, yeah, they're going to be broken. And that was his only response. His only response. He could not guarantee me anything that my land would remain as is. So just some other points to think about from a different perspective. I appreciate you letting me speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who's next?
Darwood Gardy.
You state your name and your address, please, Darwin.
Darwin Gardy, 3760 North, 300 East, Huntington, Union Township.
That mic will pick you up, you can stand up, it'll pick it up.
He'll pick me up? Okay. That sounds good. Okay. Maybe I want to say thank you to Rob Miller, Tom Wall, Terry Stoffel, the commissioners, the DCD board, councils, and that for taking the opportunity to allow the people to speak. That's what we asked when we came, that you would listen to us and hear our voice. And so I thank you for that. You've done that. And I believe the ordinance you have in front of you speaks to a lot of things that we would like to see through. We'd like to accept this ordinance, put this in place so we can have this done. I appreciate the comments that were brought up tonight. There's some very good comments brought up. Like you said, we had mentioned those and in those languages, so thank you for thinking of that. And I just, again, I appreciate what's been done. It's hard on both sides, but I know all the studies I've done, listening to people talking, solar panels, solar energy, it's not for agricultural land. We need our farmland, and that's not where we want it. So we ask you to consider this so that doesn't happen, and that's mainly what I have to say, so thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, no applause. Okay, go ahead, Kim.
It's our last one.
That's the last one. Okay, so we're going to close public comment at this point. We'll have more discussion amongst the board members. And so any other discussion between the board members at this point? So.
One comment was back to the floodplain issue. I was trying to explain earlier, and that George was starting to explain also, is when you have all of those supports for all of the panels, there'll be a sea of trees, so to speak, in lines. We supported the panels above the floodplain in this case. But when water floods, it also carries debris and material with it, and so it's going to get wedged and lodged in there and create dams as it goes through too. And that's why I just don't think it's a good practice and something that should not be done.
if I could have just a minute, Ed,
Yeah.
couple things.
Yeah.
You know, this-
Open discussion for the board, so yeah.
This has been a tough subject, okay, for all of us. It really has. The couple things that I want to say is, you know, the 1,000-foot setback and the prime farm ground, that part there kind of bothers me. For instance, on an FHA loan to build a house, the distance between a well and a septic, the minimum distance is 50 foot. Okay? So we don't ban anything else like calving operations or hog operations or even residential on prime farm ground. So those kind of things, those bother me. That makes it kind of like a property rights issue to me, because we grow corn, right, on prime farm ground, right? Corn. Well, corn, 30 to 40% of it is sold for ethanol. That's a renewable fuel. Okay, so it's not completely about renewables either. Lastly, and you know, you guys kind of know where I stand on this thing. A vote for this ordinance is a vote against economic development, and it's a vote for what I think is higher electric bills and higher property taxes. You know? I don't know, I mean, okay, we can laugh, but economic development is what keeps taxes low. And if we don't find a way to increase our electric output, we're going to lose out on more economic development. And we're going to be paying more for your services that the commissioners and the council try to provide for the whole county. I mean, I represent every taxpayer in Huntington County, and I take that pretty seriously. I know you guys disagree with me. I respect that you guys don't want to see it. I honestly do. I respect that you don't want to see it. But I worry about what we say no next to, any of us landowners, that we want to do something on our land, and then a bunch of people say, we're worried about doing this on your property, so we're gonna see if we can get that banned. I wish we could come to a compromise, okay? Seriously. Thank you.
May I have a minute, sir?
Yes, absolutely. That's open for the
Okay,
board, so go ahead.
I don't know all the answers to this. I don't think any of us do, but I do believe that we can learn from the experience of other communities. California is dismantling, decommissioning their 5-mile square solar field because it's inefficient and it's too expensive to run. Europe, France, and Germany are walking away from solar likewise because it's too expensive, it's inefficient. On your best sunny day, it only is efficient to 25%. And how many days does Indiana have here in this region? National Weather Service says we have 170 days of sunshine, and it doesn't qualify how much time that is. It's some sunny days, but I don't think it's a good fit for this community. It may work well for other communities, but for here in Huntington County, we don't need it for the economic development. I don't think it'll bring a nickel to anyone but farmers that have signed up for it. So I think this ordinance is a good ordinance that we can work with. Like I say, let's learn from the experience of other communities that have tried this, and for a long time. France has done it for quite a while before us, and yet they're walking away from it, so.
Are you speaking, Chief? No?
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think, you know, there was a recent bill that was passed. They were trying to remove home rule, right? And that particular senator, one of the things that he said is, he said, we have $55 billion of tech coming to Indiana, and it's really not so much about energy. It's more about what those customers want from that industry, whether it's Google, Microsoft, and it's more about their customer base. Whether we don't want to make this political or not, it is. And their customer base wants so much of their stuff coming from green energy, right? I know that we've had all the fear mongering of we're going to run out of power and it's going to be way more expensive, but yet we're closing coal plants, right? Well, I think our president's stopping that. So if we needed the power, why would we close a coal plant? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if we really want to go down, instead of pointing fingers at any commissioners or anybody on the board, we need to point the fingers right to Indianapolis, because they're the ones who did this. They're the ones who failed all of us. And after tonight, and then after the commissioners meeting, or whatever this process is going to take us, whatever the end of it is, and just like Mr. Chapman said, we can heal as a community and move forward and learn from our mistakes. But ultimately the state failed us. And the reason the state failed us is because they took away, what they did is they said, we're going to leave home rule to apply for you guys to set your own ordinance, but hang on a second. What we're really going to do is we're going to allow you to overlay agricultural land so that the neighbors never get notified. Nobody's voice is allowed to be heard. I heard one of you talking about setbacks for agricultural, for livestock barns, and somebody mentioned junkyards, right? But if you've got to understand, when some of you were a part of this back then, what you've got to understand back then, nobody said the word solar farm back then. It was called industrial solar. If you go back and read your minutes, that's some of the stuff you're going to see. It was called industrial solar. But when it was called industrial solar, what we need to understand is that we have zoning. Currently in Huntington County, we have agricultural, we have something called light industrial, and we have something called heavy industrial. But the reason the word industrial was removed, in my opinion, is so that we can say, well, it's not industrial. Gosh, it's in your name. So what happened there is, if you've ever been to a BZA meeting, and I encourage you all to show up to one of those, it's very interesting, because I watched a gentleman come up and he wanted to build a pole barn. And as a board member, we had to say, wait, are we following our comprehensive plan? So one of the questions we had to answer to this gentleman, for the record, we had to say, by him building that, will it adversely affect the value of surrounding property? So we're going to do this for the BZA, but we didn't follow a comprehensive plan when it came here because we weren't required to, because the state failed us, because they allowed it to be an overlay. If the process were any different, maybe we could have sat down and had dialogue and worked through it and tried to come up with, what works for our county. Ultimately, where we're at today, just like a few of you have said, this is an all-out ban. So be it. You can vote no, not recommend. You can vote yes, I recommend. But one of the things that I don't see is, well, I'd like to see instead of a bond, and the reason I bring up bond is because Pulaski County, for example, they were required, the solar company owned by a foreign country, they were required to carry a $60 million bond. Ultimately, when the citizens started removing politicians and electing them out, the new commissioner came in and said, you know what, let's go sniffing around and see if this is right. And they had a $6 million bond, not a $60 million bond. So ultimately, I would love for this ordinance to say cash only. But what we have to identify is that it is a ban. Who are we kidding? Can't do it on farm ground. Now we can talk about, well, what if they could do it over in the swamp in this floodplain, and what if we have that? Ultimately, I don't see solar coming if this passes. I think we can all agree on that. So it isn't about, well, I'd like to add a bunch of more stuff in there. Because then if we're talking about cost with attorney's fees and all of these things, if we want to go back and forth for the next year and go through this, we can make this thing better. But ultimately, I think we have the coverages that either you'll agree with or you don't agree with. It's either a ban or it's not a ban. That's ultimately where we're at. We can split hairs all day long. We can say, well, I'm going to vote no recommendation, but when it gets to the commissioners, I want to see a bond instead of, I don't want to see a bond, I want to see all cash deposit in the bank. And then you could come up with something else, and you could come up with something else. And what we can do is we can spend another $50,000 to $100,000 for attorneys, and we can do it at the taxpayer's dollar. Or we can say, we support a ban or we don't support a ban. That's where we're at.
So I appreciate Steve's involvement in the Plan Commission. Steve has been on the board many years, and I value him as an architect background, and and sharing where he feels these ordinance can be improved, because as he stated, you want to be very careful how you put an ordinance together, because people will do things or try to attempt to do things that are not, and so what Steve is trying to do is it's from his years of experience on this board, and I appreciate Steve's input. So I just wanted to say that, and Jim as well has been on the board quite a while too. So when you come down to it, it's helpful to have people reviewing it, and because there are times when you have an ordinance in place, you want to make sure that there are things covered. So
Yeah, that would be my comment, that, a lot of people have been asking me if I'm for or against. And normally what I tell them is I don't really want any solar panels on my farm. I'm not sure how I can tell my neighbor what he should do. But I also know it's my responsibility to come up and try to enforce public safety. And again, I hope the things that I brought up are about things like public safety in terms of surface water. It's not here, there's nothing. Now, one of the reasons why I'm not too worried about that is because, as Bob states, you can't build any solar panels in that county. Your soil type thing alone prohibits the construction of any solar panels anywhere that I can see, other than Erie Stone, and you know what I mean? So just to say it's a ban, we can't say it's a ban. You guys stated that. We can't just say it's a ban. Well, so we have these stipulations that make it a ban. But yet we still don't have the things that we think might be important for the public safety. And that's why I am concerned about just the structure of the ordinance. And somebody comes along and says, well, again, 1,000-foot setback to a well. I think you guys probably better quit spreading manure within 1,000 foot of my well. I think maybe if you can't build solar panels on farm ground, well, then maybe you shouldn't be building tool sheds and grain facilities and houses. The other big flaw I see in this thing is, even though, again, I think it's a total ban, I can't even grow crops in the 1,000-foot setback. I can't even grow crops there. I have to grow cover crops. Stipulated according to the ordinance, all buffer areas will be planted to cover crop. Doesn't say I can grow any crops at all in any participating property or in any setback. But it doesn't really, it's a moot point, because nobody's gonna build any solar panels anyway. So if that's your goal, you made it. But the reason my concerns are is I just feel like there are some flaws in general with the ordinance that should probably be addressed.
And I'm in support of the ordinances, those flaws that concern me, that if it's approved in this manner on this basis, but then something changes, then there's a lot of flaws down the road. If it is changed to be permitted or allowed, or somebody comes in and it does, there's a lot of holes. So that's all.
I'm going to speak for the commissioners, because the commissioner's name has been thrown out about 500 times tonight. So are you all right with that, Tom? Around our conversations that we've had, you're all good with that? Okay. All right. I'm kind of a simple guy, and I just tell it the way it is. Maybe you like me, maybe you don't, whatever, I don't care. But I've always been known to tell it the way it is, okay? The commissioners, by design, helped put this together. There's no two shits about that, all right? We don't want solar in Huntington County. We've listened to the people. We've listened to thousands of people, and I've got the text messages saved in my phone, literally over thousands. The majority of the people, overwhelming majority of the people, do not want them here, okay? Do we want to take it away from the individual that wants to put it on their farm and run their chicken operation or whatever they're doing on their private ground and it's not for sale? We don't care. This is not communistic community by any shape, way, or form. But we have listened to the people, and the people do not want it on the farm ground, and they don't want to look at it, and they don't want it here. And it does align with our comprehensive plan that we have put into play, our long-term comprehensive plan. George, you're so smart when it comes to stuff, like, okay? And I've kind of heard the overwhelming from these guys over here. We could get deep in the weeds and we could beat this horse for another 2 years. We could. I don't want to beat this horse for another 2 years. And I don't need more text messages. I'm done with it, okay? So, I think you put us in these positions to be commissioners and listen to the people. That's what I was put in here for, and that's what I did, okay? If you don't like it, get rid of me next time. I don't care. But I'm gonna do what I think's right, okay? And this was put in here. I won't call it a ban, but it's not gonna be the way it's written. It's not gonna be on farm ground, and it's not gonna be within 1,000 feet if you own a 2 square mile thing, I guess. But they're not gonna come in and put that kind of infrastructure in here for 1,000-foot setbacks. They're not gonna do it, okay? So, that's what it is. I'm not trying to pull a smoke over anybody's eyes. That's why it's designed that way. Rob, Tom, do you have anything to say about that?
No, I think this ordinance is I said this before, I think it's a direct reflection of what the Huntington County community wants as far as solar energy systems in Huntington County. And I think majority rules, and I think, people can argue property owners' rights, have the right to earn a living off of their property that they've worked hard for, and to have a generational farm. But also, you can't say that solar is not impacting your neighbor and everybody else in the community, that I have the right to impact everybody else too. I think Bobby Boland says, our state has failed us. I think our federal energy policy has failed all of us. For years and years, it's failed us. And so we're on the receiving end of this. Green energy can't stand alone on its own merits without subsidies. I personally think, and I'm not an expert in green energy or energy period, but I think this green energy thing is going to go away in the next 5 to 10 years, and we're going to see something else. It's like technology. It's going to be obsolete in the next 10 years, this solar and wind thing. That's my opinion. But we've been elected to make a decision in the best interest of this community, and I think all three of us can say that what we've done is in the best interest of the Huntington County community.
No applause. We've got to keep this is a public meeting for the Plan Commission. We want to keep things moving forward, so thank you for the commissioners.
Real quick, Ed, we don't get along very often. I wanted to say, the 1,000-foot for a well has been brought up many times. I'm the one that brought it up. I wanted 1,000 foot. I wanted 1,500 foot, okay? These guys got me back to 1,000 foot. I have a 5-page list of what's in a lithium battery and what that can do to our environment. It is not like the corn or the beans or the other things that's on cropland and everything there. I wanted 1,000 feet. That's on me. Sorry you don't like that, but I'm just telling you, I think we put together a good ordinance. I am not one that does the cost figuring, or any of us, on if a solar farm can come into Huntington County. That's up to them. If they can meet these guidelines and they come in here and meet what our recommendations are through our ordinance here, that's on them. They won't be making as much money, but they'd still be making some money. But you know what? We're going to protect our environment, our community, our residents in our community, and go from there. So 1,000 feet was on me. These guys got me back down. I think we took 1,200 foot for probably an hour. They got me down to 1,000 foot. Good. I'm at 1,000 foot. But I tell you what, I think we have a good ordinance. I have a great ordinance that's going to help a lot of people here in Huntington County. And I can go to bed at night and be happy with what we have done. And I would highly suggest that our board vote on this, send it back to the commissioners with a favorable recommendation on what we have done for you, for all of us to get together, for all the countless meetings that everyone here has been through for many, many, many months. So I want to thank the board for being here. You all have got people for it and against it. Some have been very nasty, some have been very kind. But you know what? I will tell you, we'll take out a little bit of applause before he shut them down, because we haven't heard that. But you know what? We're here for the community. We're going to do what we can to help you guys out, everybody. We're here for the people. Thank you.
Okay, we have more time for discussion for the board. Is there any other comments?
I got a couple things. I don't know if everybody here has the zoning code. You guys ever seen that? What code? The Huntington County zoning code. So, section 901 is, section 901 is agricultural district. The agricultural district is intended to protect and maintain the agricultural lands utilized for farming and livestock purposes. It's an intent of this section to preserve agricultural lands and discourage reclassification of zoning to non-agricultural use without a clear showing of proven need in the public interest and a clear showing of conformity with the comprehensive plan. So I thought that was pretty straightforward about, you know, that solar's not really preserving farm ground. And second thing, I work in the utility industry, and I can guarantee solar's not the answer to any power needs in the future. There's 2 data centers being built in Indiana, 2 locations. Those 2 locations, when they're done and online, will use more power than one utility. I mean, so a couple thousand acres of solar is not gonna help if you're for it. And what I would guess most people for it are gonna gain something from that if it's their property. Other than that, I don't think it's the way to go. Side note, that means nuclear or something like that is gonna have to take up the slack. So something like that might be coming down the pipeline in the future. So
Wait till we write a nuclear ordinance.
I agree with that, 100%. Yeah, I do. It's coming. SMRs are coming.
yeah,
Okay.
those data centers use a lot of power, and you haven't even talked about electrifying vehicles and whatever else they want to push. So yeah, solar's definitely not the answer. So that's all I got.
Okay, what other comments do we have from the board? Thank you, everybody, for commenting on this. This is very helpful from the board. And we want to, again, Andy explained how things work with when someone makes a motion and how that would work. So, does anybody have a motion that they want to make on this, or do we have more discussion?
We're ready to vote, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance as written.
Well, we don't approve, we're just setting it.
I recommend in favor.
Do pass recommendation.
I do pass recommendation.
I second it.
No, you can't.
I can't, why?
Not yet.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to send this docket item to the commissioners with a favorable recommendation. So, we'll go for roll call.
Jim Sproul,
No.
Terry Miller,
No.
Ed Ferris,
No.
Steve Park,
No.
Jerry Meehan,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
No.
Don Freiberger,
No.
Terry Stoffel.
Yes. And I'll see you at the commissioner's desk.
Okay, motion did not pass to send.
No, that's not true.
As a favorable recommendation.
As a favorable recommendation.
Correct.
The motion did not pass as a favorable recommendation.
So you can vote on an unfavorable recommendation or a no recommendation at all.
I would like to make a motion that we send it to the commissioners with no recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion's been made to send this docket to the commissioners with no recommendation, and it's been seconded. We'll go to the roll call.
Jim Sproul,
Yes.
Terry Miller,
Yes.
Ed Ferris,
Yes.
Steve Park,
Yes.
Jerry Meehan,
No.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
Don Freiberger,
No.
Terry Stoffel.
Yes.
So what's the count?
6-2.
6-2, motion passes to send this to the docket item to the commissioners with no recommendation. Okay, so,
I think you better recount, I think it's 5-3, just for,
This last time around,
and Cece will say.
6-2.
I have 6-2. The only no's I have is,
Me and Bobby.
Nope. you
right,
and-
Jerry and
Don.
Don.
Excuse me.
okay, so
It was
no other
6
discussion for the Huntington County Plan Commission. We're going to ask for any other, is there anything from director on anything?
No.
So, okay.
Nope.
So is there a motion to adjourn the Huntington County Plan Commission?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Just double clear, is there anything more from citizens before we adjourn
We're
this?
just gonna open Andrews and go through all those.
We are going to open the others and go through those as well, so. Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Huntington County Plan Commission adjourned. We'll open up the Andrews Plan Commission for roll call.
Andy Eckert. Terry Miller.
Here.
Todd Landrum. Ed Ferris.
Here.
Jim Sproul.
Here.
Steve Park.
Here.
Jerry Meehan.
Present.
Don Freiberger.
Here.
Bob Boland.
Here.
Terry Stoffel.
Here.
Okay, we have consideration minutes from March 26, 2025.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So we'll go ahead then to the new business, same docket as we had in the Huntington County Plan Commission. I won't read it. Is there a motion on this discussion?
We still have those.
Yes, thank you, Steve. We do need to make sure the citizens, for the Andrews specifically, Plan Commission, you can speak for or against this docket item. Anybody would like to speak for Andrews? We hadn't had anybody signed up for Andrews? Okay, so we'll close the public discussion, and we'll go ahead then to discussion by the board.
Do you need some kind of an official thing that we'll work off the transcripts from our earlier public discussions for a vote? I forget how we do that.
Yeah.
Let's rehash it all, Jim.
Well, I know that's what I mean. Do we have to put it in the record that we are gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know how to word it.
Sorry, just being sarcastic.
No, I get it. Been there. So whatever we need to do.
So we need to, I guess, a motion to, on this docket item.
Ditto for Huntington.
So if somebody needs to make that motion as far as whether or not we're gonna, as Andy said, do we need to be favorable, unfavorable?
I'll make a motion that we have an unfavorable sent to the commissioners. for
Unfavorable?
Or no.
To the town council of Andrews.
county council.
Okay, motion's been made for an unfavorable recommendation for this docket item. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been seconded. We'll go to roll call.
Andy Eckert.
Yep.
Terry Miller.
Yes.
Ed Ferris.
No.
Jim Sproul.
No.
Steve Park.
No.
Jerry Meehan.
No.
Don Freiberger.
No.
Bob Boland.
No.
Terry Stoffel?
No.
Okay, so motion dies for unfavorable. Is there any?
I'll make a motion that we send it to the commissioners with no recommendation.
Motion's been made to send to the commissioners, to the Andrews Town Council with no recommendation. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Do we want to go roll call? Roll call. Sure.
Andy Eckert?
Yes.
Terry Miller?
Yes.
Ed Ferris?
Yes.
Jim Sproul?
Yes.
Steve Park?
Yes.
Jerry Meehan?
No.
Don Freiberger?
Yes.
Bob Boland?
Yes.
And Terry Stoffel?
Yes.
Okay, so motion passes to send to the Town of Andrews Council with a no recommendation. So we'll go ahead then. Any other discussion from citizens or by board members specific to the Town of Andrews Planning Commission? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn the Town of Andrews Planning Commission?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so now we're going to open up the Markle Plan Commission. First item is roll call.
Jim Sproul?
Here.
Todd Landrum? Ed Ferris?
Here.
Terry Miller?
Here.
Steve Park?
Here.
Jerry Meehan?
Present.
Bob Boland?
Here.
Don Freiberger?
Here.
Terry Stoffel?
Present.
Okay, we go to consideration minutes from March the 26th, 2025.
Motion to approve as presented?
Motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Here, no conflict of interest, so we're going ahead then to the new business would be the same docket as the Huntington Plan Commission. And is there anything from the citizens and our board members that they would like to discuss on this docket item? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
What is it?
To send it back to
Town of Roanoke, or Town of Mark.
Town of Markle.
With?
With no recommendation.
Okay, motion's been made to send this to the Town of Markle Council with no recommendation. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Go to a roll call, Kim.
Jim Sproul?
Yes.
Ed Ferris?
Yes.
Terry Miller?
Yes.
Steve Park?
Yes.
Jerry Meehan?
No.
Bob Boland?
Yes.
Don Freiberger?
Yes.
Terry Stoffel?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Is that enough votes, Kim?
Yep.
I know we get to town, we have to.
So we'll go ahead then. Is there anything from the citizens or board members that'd like to discuss for the Town of Markle Plan Commission?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We'll open up the Mount Etna Plan Commission. First item is roll call.
Terry Miller?
Here.
Jim Sproul?
Here.
Todd Landrum? Ed Ferris?
Here.
Jerry Meehan?
Present.
Steve Park?
Still here.
Don Freiberger?
Here.
Bob Boland?
Here.
Terry Stoffel?
Present.
Okay, we'll go to consideration of minutes from March the 26th, 2025.
Approve is presented.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Is there a conflict of interest for anything? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead to the same business as we had with the Huntington Plan Commission. And is there anybody, the citizens or board members that would like to discuss this docket item? Okay, is there a motion on this docket?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to send this ordinance to the Mount Etna Town Council with no recommendation.
Okay, motion's been made to send this to the Mount Etna Town Council with no recommendation.
I'll second.
Motion's been seconded. Okay, we'll go to a roll call. Kim?
Terry Miller?
Here.
Yes or no?
Oh, yes.
Jim Sproul,
Yes, sorry.
Ed Ferris,
Yes.
Jerry Meehan,
No.
Steve Park,
Yes.
Don Freiberger,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
Terry Stoffel.
Yep.
Okay, motion passes to send this to the Mount Outlet Town Council with no recommendation. Anything else from the citizens, our board members, on the Town of Mount Etna Plan Commission?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So we'll go ahead then to open up the Roanoke Plan Commission. First item is roll call.
Brandon Kitt.
Here.
Terry Miller.
Here.
Jim Sproul.
Here.
Todd Landrum.
Yes.
Ed Ferris.
Here.
Steve Park.
Here.
Jerry Meehan.
Present.
Bob Boland.
Here.
Don Freiberger.
Here.
Terry Stoffel.
Present.
Okay, we'll go ahead then to consideration of minutes from March the 26th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Who seconded that?
Brandon.
Oh, so Brandon, who made the motion?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Jerry.
Or you can make Brandon the motion. I second it.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, all in favor of that, we voted on that, so we go ahead then to the new business, it's the same as the Huntington County Plan Commission. Is there any body as far as citizens or board members that would like to comment on this specifically for the town of Roanoke? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion on this docket?
Make a motion to send with no recommendation.
Motion's been made to send this to the Roanoke Town Council with no recommendation. Is there a second on that motion?
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Kim, do you want to?
Almost did, didn't you? Almost did.
Roll call.
Brandon Kitt.
Yes.
Terry Miller.
Yes.
Jim Sproul.
Yes.
Ed Ferris.
Yes.
Steve Park.
Yes.
Jerry Meehan.
No.
Bob Boland.
Yes.
Don Freiberger.
Yes.
Terry Stoffel.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So we have, we'll send this to the Roanoke Town Council with no recommendation. Any other discussion on this for the town of Roanoke Plan Commission? Brandon, you have anything else? Anybody else, citizens? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the town of Roanoke Plan Commission?
Motion.
Motion's been made, seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Motion passes. We'll go ahead then to call me in order for Warren Plan Commission. We have roll call. Kim?
Greg Whitcamp.
Yeah, I'm here.
Ed Souter.
Yep.
Todd Landrum. Jim Sproul.
Here.
Terry Miller.
Here.
Ed Ferris.
Here.
Steve Park.
Here.
Jerry Meehan.
Present.
Don Freiberger.
Here.
Bob Boland.
Here.
Terry Stoffel.
Okay, we have consideration minutes from March the 26th. Would somebody from that end want to make a motion on the minutes from March the 26th?
I accept that.
Make a motion? Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it, even though I wasn't here.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So, hearing no conflict of interest, we'll go ahead then to new business being the same as the Huntington County Plan Commission. And is there anybody specific to the town of Warren that would like to speak for citizens or board members? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion that somebody would like to make on this docket item?
I'd like to make a recommendation that we send it to the Warren Council with no recommendation.
Motion's been made, is there a second? Second. Motion's been made, seconded, all in favor? Kim, do you want to go through the roll call?
I only messed up once then.
Greg Whitcamp.
You get a vote now. Oh, really? No.
You mean yes?
Huh? Would you? I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes. Jeff Souter.
Yes.
Jim Sproul.
Yes.
Terry Miller.
Yes.
Ed Ferris.
Yes.
Steve Park.
Yes.
Jerry Meehan,
No.
Don Freiberger.
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
Terry Stoffel.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes to send this docket item to,
Before you close the meeting, I want to
Okay.
ask a question. Go ahead.
okay, so we're gonna send this to the town of Warren Warren Town Council with a favorable recommendation, with a no recommendation. And so Jim, you wanna say something?
I have a question for our esteemed council.
Yes.
If different jurisdictions approve or don't approve this ordinance, what does that look like?
Well, they each have their own zoning ordinance.
Yeah,
Yeah, so your zoning ordinances would be different. If they don't approve it, then it wouldn't be in there.
so they would revert to
How it is
our
now.
old.
The moratorium would remain in effect.
It'd be the exact same as it is now. No
Oh,
change.
what? The moratorium would still be in effect in their jurisdiction?
Correct.
Okay, I was just curious.
Because there's no end date on what's in the books right now, right?
Right.
It's not, there's no end date, so, yeah.
Yeah, if this doesn't pass in a particular town, nothing changes in that town. It stays
Right.
exactly the way it is right now.
I just wanted to ask. I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, very good question, thank you. Okay, anything else from citizens or board members and specific to Warren Planning Commission? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay.
Go with the guys.